Now before we get started with our painting, we're gonna want to prep a few things. I have this little lid that came off of a plastic jar that I had, which is about 2 inches around. So this will take this will be my template for the moon. So you just kind of want to place it somewhere off, you know, to the upper right a little bit, and I'm just going to trace around that. Okay, so at this point, what I want to do, oops, I didn't trace that well enough on the top. Let me get that. There, that's better. You can always erase if you need to erase anything. Oh, here's my eraser. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is take this colorless art masking fluid. You don't have to get this company. There's many companies that make this, but what it does is it stops the watercolor paint from touching the paper. And so it's just very, very simple. You just take probably a paintbrush that you don't really care about very much, something that you don't mind throwing away. So let me pull out one that I don't mind throwing away. And let's see. This one's good enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take this and go ahead and fill it, the entire moon, around this pencil mark that I did. And this will stop the paint from hitting the paper. I want to get as close to the line as possible and fill it in. Now you could hand paint around your circle if you can't buy this anywhere, but I know they sell it online, so that's not impossible to get. But if you want to cut some corners, you could just paint, but it makes it a little bit harder to paint around it without getting out of the lines. This way it's a little bit easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this paintbrush. It's a junky paintbrush that I use just for this, and I put some of the masking fluid in the lid, and I'm just going to take my paintbrush, my toothbrush, and I'm just gonna go ahead and splatter. I can't really see what's happening, but I do know it is happening. They'll come in all different sizes, which is what I want. And just splatter it all over, and that will give me those teeny tiny stars. So yeah, that should do it. I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry really well. It's probably gonna take a few hours to dry really well. Sometimes people get impatient and they paint too soon, but just give it 2 hours. If you wash this with soap and water, both of these, that stuff will come out, but you have to do that right away because it will get hardened fast. So we're gonna let this dry for a couple of hours, and then we'll come back and do our painting. So these are the colors that you're gonna use for your sky, but please feel free to create your own sky color if you want to. The top one has a little Payne's gray to make it more of a navy blue. The second one is just plain phthalo blue. The third one is our purple color, so I used ultramarine blue and magenta. And then the last one is more of our green tone, and I used the Prussian blue with a little yellow ochre to make it more on the green side. But again, please feel free to create your own blue colors. This is not, this does not have to be exact for you to have a beautiful painting at the end. So after this is dry, and you can definitely feel when you touch it, it feels a little like sticky, but not wet sticky. So this is dry. I put my colorless art masking fluid on it, and you can just get this online. And now I've already made a mixture of some blues, like a turquoise blue, more like an indigo navy blue, a purpley blue, and I have one over here that's not in the camera, but it's like a greenish turquoise blue. So I'm gonna go ahead and just lightly wet down the surface, not worried about it getting it. I don't want to soak it. I just kind of want to wet down the whole thing. Go around the moon, all the way to the bottom, just to lightly dampen it, okay? Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start with, I'll just start with this really pretty blue in here and just kind of let it do its thing. So go over the whole thing. And I think I'll add this purple. I didn't even rinse out my brush, I just stuck it right in there. And see how it's mixing with the other blue, how pretty that is? Okay. And now I think I'm gonna go ahead and stick it in this blue here, which is more of like an indigo blue. I actually took Payne's Gray and mixed it in with like indigo blue. So you can see I've got all kinds of really pretty shades blending into each other. Okay, and I definitely want to bring it down. So I'm just going to keep sticking it in the blues, kind of alternating all the way down to the bottom. About to here is good. Let's just let them bleed in to each other. I'm going to go ahead and I made this really pretty like greenish blue color. Green, like I put phthalo blue. No, actually this is a Prussian blue color. And this is just so pretty the way it's all mixing in together. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just maybe stop here. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more of this dark blue in here. I really like this purple up here on the top. Kind of crisscrossing it. It's gonna dry so pretty, I can already tell. Okay, so this is where I'm gonna stop, and I'm gonna let this dry really, really well and make sure I got it all around the sides. And then I will show you what I do after that. The next part's pretty fun. So stay tuned and watch. So my painting's pretty dry. I can tell by just touching it. It was pretty wet. So I think what I'm gonna do now is start rubbing off all of the masking fluid. And as you can see, as you rub it off, our stars start to pop out. I'm just taking my fingers and just rubbing. Sometimes people use an eraser, but I find that's a little too abrasive. So I'm just taking my finger and rubbing, brushing away. And I'm even gonna do my moon. Just take that off. We're gonna put a few details on our moon, not a whole lot. It's just sort of, it's kind of fun actually taking this off. Okay. And keep rubbing. I still feel, if you feel any texture at all, that is the masking. I may go ahead and take my, let's see, I've got some over here. I love how fine some of them are, because when we use the toothbrush to flick it on, see how it's all kind of gathering over here? Kind of feels like little bits of eraser. I'm gonna use my eraser just to get the last ones that are kind of being stubborn. There we go. And it just seems to be lifting the, barely pressing on this too, because I don't want to lift any of my painting off. Just getting all of the, okay, I think that's good enough for right now. you can definitely see where it's kind of a starry night going on. And as you can see, there's like a little bit that got in there. So what I'm gonna do is just take one of my paint brushes and dip it in a little bit of blue and just sort of close that up. Just enough so that I can smooth it out. The moon isn't, I mean, it's not supposed to be like a photograph. It is a watercolor painting. I'm just trying to smooth out some of these rougher. There we go. That's good. Excellent. So now we're going to go ahead and work on the forefront of this. So what we're going to be working with is Payne's Gray and Payne's Gray only. So I'm going to go ahead and take some Payne's Gray, and it looks like black, but it's definitely a kind of a dark navy blue color. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick it in here with the purple because it's going to overpower what little purple I had in there. Add a little bit of water to that, just so it's not so thick. And I'm going to go ahead and use this wide flat brush because it's great. It's got, if I chisel it, it's got a nice straight line that I can make with that. And so with that said, first I'm going to go ahead and just cover the bottom like this. I'm going to want this super dark, so if this dries too light, I'm probably going to go and do it again. All right, so from here, I'm just going to kind of come up and do some trunks in all different lengths. Put one right here. We'll just keep adding them. Go ahead and blend that in. Okay. Now from here, I think what I'm going to do is I'll rinse this out. Always rinse your brushes out. Don't leave them in your water dish. Make sure you clean them really good when you're done using it, and dry them and set them aside. Don't leave them in your water. It'll ruin your brushes. So I'm going to go ahead and take this. It's a very detailed. This one is by Black Velvet. It's a number 4, and I like the point on it. So now I'm just going to go ahead and just do some kind of like going across this. I'll do this one here because it'll be easier. And this is going to be one of my smaller trees, and I'll go ahead and put some fun little details just so it doesn't look like I stamped it out. Okay, I'm going to go all the way down into the ground with that one. Voila. So I'm just going to kind of play with all of them in that way. Just kind of, you know, give it a kind of a crisscross motion like this. To both of them. Some of them I might just not go all the way down to the bottom. And the same thing, I want to kind of just give it some details. Now if I was doing a little tiny card for somebody, I would just go ahead and do this and call it done. But because this is a bigger piece and it's more like a painting, Although I could fold this in half and make it into a card, I'm going to go ahead and just put these little tiny details in the branches. And see, it really looks more like a forest tree when you get done. Kind of fill up the middle. And this is easy, it's very relaxing. Don't think you can make a mistake on this because basically you're just doing the shadows of the trees. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in time lapse because you don't need to see me do every single stroke on this. I think you get the idea. So have some fun and just play with each one of your trees. If you want to, before you move on to that, you can even do some, like just some dabs and paint on like this, and it would be like just a little tiny bush kind of thing here. We're gonna go back and make this even more solid. So anyway, just have fun with this. No stressing. It's supposed to be just very relaxing, and you'll watch me do it very fast in the next clip. Now I think I'm going to put some shapes inside my moon just to make it look a little bit more realistic. You don't have to. If you like a nice bright white moon, you can just leave it the way it is, but I just made a very washed out, I took the Payne's gray and washed it out a lot, so there's a lot of water in it because the more water I have, the lighter the color is going to be. So I'm just going to kind of put some blotches on here. Let's see. There's not usually a lot. Really want to water it down. Just a few, not a lot. Leave some of the white showing. Just thought this would make it look a little bit more realistic. Okay, that's probably enough. I didn't want to overdo it. Just a little something more, and then my painting is basically done at this point.